So remember how I said this is kind of leading onto an exam question? So firstly, I want you to expand this for me. So here, because we don't just have one there, it means we need to consider both the x and the 1 plus x as well, right? So we start off with 4, so we know it's 4c0, and that's going to be x to the power of 4, and that's 1 on x to the power of 0 there. Okay, pretty simple. And then you go 4c1, that's x to the power of 4 minus 1, which is 3, 1 on x to the power of 1, okay? So I'm guessing we do know how to use this expansion now. So we jump through this and you know it's going to finish off with 4c4, 1 on x to the power of 4. Now we just simplify a little. So get rid of that because that's just 1 on 1. Make this cancel that. So you can cancel that x and make that 2. So that's why we have x squared there. We can cancel that and that. So actually just left with a constant of 4c2. This cancels. So you get 1 on x squared, and finally you can just get rid of that x to the power of 0 because it's 1. So we've expanded this now. Now I want you to expand this one here. So it almost looks exactly the same, but the only difference is that here we have negative 1 on x, all right? So expanding that, we have 3c0, x to the power of 3, yeah? And then negative 1 on x to the power of 0. Now, remember how I said whenever there's a negative, it's really important you put in your brackets, okay? So you don't get the signs mixed up. Now, over here, we have x squared, and this becomes power of 1, so on until you have x to the power of 0 and negative 1 on x to the power of 3. And now we want to simplify that again. So here, that becomes 1, so we can just get rid of that. This is going to be x, and that's x squared. So you can see you can just cancel that and that, right? And because it's negative to the power of 1, you know remains as negative. So that's why it becomes negative 3c1 x to the power of 1. All right, now looking at this is going to become x squared, right? Like that. So this is going to cancel with that, which is why we get 1 on x. And secondly, because it's negative squared, it becomes a positive there, okay? And then lastly with this, that just becomes 1 on x cubed. And because it's negative cubed, it remains as a negative there. So that's our expansion of x minus 1 on x to the power of 3, okay? And it's just, I just see it's too often that students do get this wrong because you forget the brackets, and such an easy thing to do, so just don't forget that. Now, using those two expansions, we finally come to question 3c, and that's that I want to find the coefficient of just x, yeah? So that means I want x just to the power of 1 there, in x minus 1 on x power 3, which we've expanded, as well as x plus 1 on x power 4, which we have expanded. Now this is definitely an exam question. So it's really, really common to come up for your binomial theorem. So that's why we did all those practice things before, so we can answer this question. So remember how we found the coefficient is that we needed to write this expanded out, and then we wrote that expanded out, and now what do? Yep, that's good. So we want to look through here and find the two terms, yeah, that multiply together to give us just x, all right? So I'll just give you a couple of seconds because I think it's good practice to find it yourself before I tell you. Have you found any yet? Yeah, so there's quite a couple here, isn't there? So the first one I can see is that this x to the power 3 on x squared, right? That's going to cancel to just give me x, isn't it? And the next one I can see is that this x on the constant is going to give me x as well. Now, what about this one? Which one is that going to pair up with to give me x? Yeah, exactly. It's going to be that one. So then you have x squared on x. So that cancels to just give me x. And finally, can you find a pair for this one to make it x as well? Yeah, good. It's just going to be that with that, because you have x to the power of 4 and x to the power of 3 here, so that cancels to just give you x there. All right, so you can see that most of these actually do have pairs. So all of these give me x. So to find the coefficient of that, I'm going to have to shift through this. So find out all these coefficients. So that'll be 3c0 times 4c3 there, minus, be really careful with your negatives here. You can see how easy it is to miss one, especially when you're cancelling and doing all those things. That times that, plus this times this, and another negative here, that times that. And now you just need to put that into your calculator, and you should get -3 as your coefficient for x there. All right? Okay, since this is such a common exam question, let's just quickly run through it again. So we found the expansions for both of these, and then what we did was just had a look and found out whenever two things multiplied together to give us x, and it was quite a few of them, and we really needed to be careful that when we were shifting through this line of working here for our coefficients, to be wary of the negatives, and then it was just putting to your calculator and getting -3 as your answer. All right, good. Now, if you can do this question, I'm very proud of you already, because you have no idea how many students struggle with this question.